What's up? What's up? So, let's talk about, avoiding dysphoria and, avoiding the feelings of it because, dysphoria is a very, very painful experience. And, I remember back before I was transitioning and in my early days of transitioning, really trying to avoid the dysphoria, which, I can't really blame myself for. I can't. Like, I remember, you know, just as I had realized, oh shit, I'm trans, before I had, like, around that, after that moment where everything all clicked together of, oh shit, I'm trans, I really went into, like, a preservation mode, which was, let's try and stop me from transitioning. Let's avoid all the feelings of transitioning, of wanting to transition. Because, I was trying to preserve my identity to, oh, let's just stay male. Let's just stay male. But at this point, I fully just, how do I put it? I was trying to be male and trying to preserve any perceived masculinity to a point where I just wasn't being me. It was like I was someone else. And then, the moment I started transitioning, I started feeling like myself again, But I remember, trying to hold on to ideas of, oh, I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male. Because, like, I feel in myself, like, I obviously, just didn't want to be, how do I put it? In myself, I didn't want to, what's it called again? Be what I perceived of trans people, which, I had a bit of a transphobic mentality. Like, I thought that it was all about genitals and all that. And because I thought it was all about genitals, it quite disgusted me. That's how I put it. So, my mind could not comprehend masculinity and femininity because when I was younger, I felt like I should have been born as a woman. So I just made do with it. And how do I put it? I blocked out the whole concept of gender from my mind and demonized it and, just made the whole idea of gender disgusting to me. Just so I could, get by. And I feel that's one of the first noticeable signs of me trying to avoid my dysphoria, And yeah, from there on, there were a few points in my life where I'd be like, okay, cool. Let's just try and stay male. Let's stay male. There was a point where, I nearly did come out as a kid. But then I avoided it. And was like, let's stay male until I'm an adult. But yeah, in my late teens, my egg really cracked hard, And then from there on, I was really trying to hold on to all the aspects of, oh, this is my male identity. This is my male identity. And, from there on, my life went to shit. My life went to shit completely. Like, I kept trying to hold on to any, you know, stereotypical male aspect of me, which I realized, you know, I didn't really have any stereotypical male aspects, apart from the fact that I used to force my voice to be deep, you know, and, you know, force my mannerisms and hide my mannerisms, you know, wherever I was, you know, knowing that there was something up with that. And yeah, for like a while after I was, you know, had that moment of realization, I went into like full on escape myself mode. You know, like I was trying to make myself as masculine as possible. To a point like, you know, oh my God, if I look at myself back then, oh geez, all the pain that I felt, though, you know, is quite disgusting. And it's like, I just get hooked on drugs and everything. And, you know, just really try and avoid, you know, that I felt like a woman. And, you know, my mind couldn't even process gender at the time, you know. So I had to really, you know, I had to really get a grasp of gender and really, you know, so before I could really process it and understand what gender is, right? But like, you know, yeah, I would avoid my emotions to try and be masculine and, you know, deepen my voice. And oh my God, pretty much I got to a point where, like, you know, I was jacking off to myself being masculine. Like, you know, jacking off to my body, you know, being masculine. And yeah, it's really hard just thinking about that time. That was one of my like avoidance tactics on my dysphoria, you know, apart from the fact that I developed a pretty intense fucking drug habit, you know, like I was always doing drugs and always taking substances to avoid myself when I, you know, realized, oh shit, I'm trans. And then there was a point where I was full on doing drugs, if you know what I mean. And yeah, my life just went down a rabbit hole of just avoid myself, avoid myself, avoid myself, to the point where, like, you know, any sense of self, I would just try and get away from me, get away from me, get away from me. So like I had a huge disassociative episode after realizing, oh shit, I'm trans. A huge disassociative episode. And it was horrible. Because I was trying to avoid, you know, oh shit, I'm trans. I was trying to avoid that. And because, like, I'm someone who, you know, likes to stay as natural as possible, really, you know. Well, that was my mentality back then. And I thought that, you know, being trans was, like, against God and shit like that. When in reality, I feel like it's against God now if you don't transition and you trans, because, you know, trans people, you're born that way, right? I'm a trans person. I'm born that way. You know, just medically transitioning and coming out, that's just an extra step. You know, transitioning is just an extra fucking step towards that journey, right? But that's where fulfillment is. That's where the fulfillment is. Once you come out and you start transitioning. And oh my God, I was in such a rut, just trying to avoid all my emotions and, you know, getting hooked on drugs and everything. And then, you know, what's more, when I was like, shit, now is the time to transition, I tried to avoid it even more because, like, you know, I really, partly because I couldn't afford surgeries or anything, and I still fucking can't, but I didn't realize how powerful HRT is, you know. So you know, after a while of just avoidance, you know, yeah, like I fully break down, and, you know, at this point it's transition or die. And I transitioned, but in the early stages I was still feeling really dysphoric of my body. So, you know, I went to avoid, you know, I went to avoid just the feelings of my dysphoria. Like, so what I would do was just anything to distract myself, right? And, you know, I was distracting because I was feeling so dysphoric. I was locking myself in the room, in this room, in this fucking room. I was locking myself in, you know, because, you know, certain bits of my body weren't feminine enough at this point, and I was going through the early stages of transitioning, and I would just do whatever I could to, like, avoid, you know, just the fact that there were aspects of my body, well, my body mostly was masculine at that point, and I was doing whatever I could, you know, and yeah, to avoid, because, you know, the dysphoria can be quite intense. So to avoid my dysphoria, which it was mainly my face, really, and, you know, I kind of was very restrictive in my clothes because my tits weren't very big. Yeah, I just got addicted to anything to really stimulate my mind for that time being. But video games were not running on my computer, so I ended up getting addicted to fucking live streaming. And oh my god, geez, it helped me out during the early stages of my transition. It really did. It really did. But now I realize now, no, it's hindering me, and, you know, it will hinder, you know, my ability to transition further because I need to work so I can transition further, you know, which I kind of want to fem down that face a bit. Like, it's okay with the HRT, but I just want to get rid of this jawline. I want to get rid of, you know, this fucking bit on my fucking forehead, the fucking bone brow, and make my forehead a bit more smooth and feminize my chin a bit. But, you know, at this point, I feel like I just, you know, I need to stop that addiction which came out of fucking, you know, trying to avoid my dysphoria. Because at this point, what do I avoid about my dysphoria? You know, I can live my life. I can live my life as a fucking woman. Yes, my face may be a bit fucked, you know, based off first puberty fucking development. But, you know, it's not something I need to avoid, you know what I mean? And my dick, as long as I'm not having sex, I don't need to avoid that. But, you know, yeah, I really got intense in a live stream addiction. It got to a point where, you know, it wasn't even about avoiding my dysphoria or anything like that, like passing the time till, you know, when the HRT will have done its job. It wasn't really about that. After a certain point, I just got addicted to the stimulation of live streaming, and now it's really, I'm coming out of that realization, you know, and I realize, you know what, I've transitioned enough, no need to avoid that aspect of my life. And yeah, here I am at a point where I don't really need to avoid anything about myself, you know, due to dysphoria or anything like that. Like, yes, I will admit, you know, I am still avoiding some things about myself because of dysphoria. Like sex, If I have sex, my dysphoria can trigger very easily. So what is there to avoid about sex? Like, seriously, we live in a world where everyone is just so deceptive. Like, you know, where sex isn't a very fucking nice thing in this world. Because everyone just wants to fuck. Because, you know, they just care about, like, you know, sticking their dick in something. When I'm not about, you know, just being a fucking thing to stick a dick in. So I'm not really avoiding anything by avoiding sex. But, you know, if I have sex, my dysphoria fully goes off, which, you know, within the last few days, I did have sex. And my dysphoria is fucking gone off, and it's like, oh shit. But it's like, I ain't gonna try and avoid my dysphoria. Like, you know, in the past, I have tried to avoid my dysphoria towards my dick, pretty much by completely shutting off. And, you know, as we explained before, you know, yeah, there was a time where I was avoiding my identity with drugs. Well, avoiding my dick with drugs is a different story. You know, it's fucked up. And this is why I don't like having sex. You know, because I am avoiding that dysphoria. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to be, you know, feeling that dysphoria at all time. So at the moment in my life, there are still parameters around, you know, not being sucked into my dysphoria. But I'm also working on body positivity, such as I had long hair down to here. I shaved it. I shaved here and I cut my hair short like this because I wanted to prove to myself that, you know, I can still be a fucking woman with short hair. And I proved it to myself. I still am a fucking woman. And my appearance is still feminine. So, you know, oh my god, it's amazing. But yeah. Like, am I avoiding my face? Bitch, look at me. Look at me. Look at that ugly face. Like, yeah, I got a fucking bone brow. Yeah, I've got a strong jawline. But wait, what's on this side? Oh, is that a bit feminine? This side, it's not, but, you know. In other words, like, I feel at this point in my life, I'm not avoiding my dysphoria. You know, but back a few years ago, I was in a really bad way and I was avoiding my dysphoria. Like, for example, another thing, sometimes I may watch myself, you know, when I'm speaking on the phone, because, you know, I don't want to sound like a man, but I haven't been doing that much. Like, at this point, I'd say that, yeah, I've transitioned to a good enough point. I'm at a good starting point with my transition. You know, but, like, I feel like some advice for anyone who's trying to avoid their dysphoria, you know, just fucking let yourself transition. Transition, motherfucker. Transition. It'll be the best thing you'll ever do for yourself. Because what's the point in living a false identity? There's nothing really that will fulfill you in yourself. You know? There's nothing which will fulfill you in yourself by living as a fake identity. So live as your true gender, be a fucking woman. You know, transition. That's my fucking advice. Get on the HRT. I'll talk about, you know, more of this sort of stuff in some future videos. And, you know, start embracing yourself for who the fuck you are. But anyway, bye everyone. Bye. I hope that this video was informative, but I feel that's all I've had to say, but bye everyone.